Eugenie has left us. Good heavens, what are you telling me? The truth, my dear Count. Oh, how happy you must be in not having either wife or children. Do you think so? Indeed I do. And so Mademoiselle Danglars. She could not endure the insult offered to us by that wretch, so she asked permission to travel. And is she gone? The other night she left. With Madame Danglars? No, with a relation. But still, we have quite lost our dear Eugenie, for I doubt whether her pride will ever allow her to return to France. Still, Baron, said Monte Cristo, family griefs, or indeed any other affliction which would crush a man whose child was his only treasure, are endurable to a millionaire. Philosophers may well say, and practical men will always support the opinion, that money mitigates many trials, and if you admit the efficacy of this sovereign balm, you ought to be very easily consoled, you, the king of finance, the focus of immeasurable power. Danglars looked at him askance, as though to ascertain whether he spoke seriously. Yes, he answered, if a fortune brings consolation, I ought to be consoled. I am rich. So rich, dear sir, that your fortune resembles the pyramids. If you wished to demolish them you could not, and if it were possible, you would not dare. Danglars smiled at the good-natured pleasantry of the Count. That reminds me, he said, that when you entered I was on the point of signing 5 little bonds. I have already signed 2. Will you allow me to do the same to the others? Pray do so. There was a moment's silence, during which the noise of the banker's pen was alone heard, while Monte Cristo examined the gilt moldings on the ceiling. Are they Spanish, Haitian, or Neapolitan bonds? Said Monte Cristo. No, said Danglars, smiling, they are bonds on the Bank of France, payable to bearer. Stay, Count, he added, you, who may be called the Emperor, if I claim the title of King of Finance, have you many pieces of paper of this size, each worth $1 million? The Count took into his hands the papers, which Danglars had so proudly presented to him, and read. To the Governor of the Bank. Please pay to my order, from the fund deposited by me, the sum of $1 million, and charge the same to my account. Baron Danglars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, said Monte Cristo. 5 millions, why what a Croesus you are. This is how I transact business, said Danglars. It is really wonderful, said the Count, above all, if, as I suppose, it is payable at sight. It is, indeed, said Danglars. It is a fine thing to have such credit, really, it is only in France these things are done. 5 millions on 5 little scraps of paper. It must be seen to be believed. You do not doubt it? No. You say so with an accent. Stay, you shall be convinced. Take my clerk to the bank, and you will see him leave it with an order on the treasury for the same sum. No, said Monte Cristo, folding the 5 notes, most decidedly not. The thing is so curious, I will make the experiment myself. I am credited on you for 6 millions. I have drawn 900,000 francs, you therefore still owe me 5 millions and 100,000 francs. I will take the 5 scraps of paper that I now hold as bonds, with your signature alone, and here is a receipt in full for the 6 millions between us. I had prepared it beforehand, for I am much in want of money today. And Monte Cristo placed the bonds in his pocket with one hand, while with the other he held out the receipt to Danglars. If a thunderbolt had fallen at the banker's feet, he could not have experienced greater terror. What? He stammered. Do you mean to keep that money? Excuse me, but I owe this money to the charity fund, a deposit which I promised to pay this morning. Oh, well, then, said Monte Cristo, I am not particular about these 5 notes, pay me in a different form. I wished, from curiosity, to take these, that I might be able to say that without any advice or preparation the house of Danglars had paid me 5 millions without a minute's delay. It would have been remarkable. But here are your bonds, pay me differently, and he held the bonds towards Danglars, who seized them like a vulture extending its claws to withhold the food that is being wrested from its grasp. Suddenly he rallied, made a violent effort to restrain himself, and then a smile gradually widened the features of his disturbed countenance. Certainly, he said, your receipt is money. Oh dear, yes, and if you were at Rome, the house of Thomson and French would make no more difficulty about paying the money on my receipt than you have just done. Pardon me, Count, pardon me. Then I may keep this money? Yes, said Danglars, while the perspiration started from the roots of his hair. Yes, keep it, keep it. Monte Cristo replaced the notes in his pocket with that indescribable expression which seemed to say, "Come, reflect, if you repent there is still time." No, said Danglars, no, decidedly no, keep my signatures. But you know none are so formal as bankers in transacting business. I intended this money for the charity fund, and I seem to be robbing them if I did not pay them with these precise bonds. How absurd, as if one crown were not as good as another. Excuse me, and he began to laugh loudly, but nervously. Certainly, I excuse you, said Monte Cristo graciously, and pocket them. And he placed the bonds in his pocketbook. But, said Danglars, there is still a sum of 100,000 francs. Oh, a mere nothing, said Monte Cristo. The balance would come to about that sum, but keep it, and we shall be quits. Count, said Danglars, are you speaking seriously?